Hey everybody, it's Jeff with Crashing the Pearly Gate. The Angels have wrapped up the 2025 draft. The minor league season, about 80% of the way done across most levels. So now's a great time to take a look at what we have on the farm, and there's no better guy to discuss that with than Taylor Blake Ward. How are you doing this morning, Taylor?
I'm all right, man. Outside of Edison being parked just down the street and maybe losing power here soon, we'll see how it goes.
All
So, how are you
right, so
doing?
this interview will last until the screen goes dark. Let's get to it. I mean, I followed you on Twitter, but for those who don't, what were your general overall impressions of the Angels draft in 2025?
A little underwhelming. I mean, I think when you have the number two pick, you'd like to get a little something better than a guy, a safe bet to be a mid rotation arm to a degree. I think you'd like a little more upside, but this draft didn't really give you that. I definitely would not agree with taking a reliever in the second round, which I believe they did. That's a big thing on my marker, but they're going to try and start him. We'll see how it goes, but that's a reliever no matter what for my end. And then they took a lot of upside prep arms, which I think is exciting. Tim McIlvaine mentioned that it's the first time in players, and I hope that's the case in this scenario. And I hope it's a trend that continues beyond this draft. But yeah, I think Bremner's a good pitcher. I don't think the value of Bremner is bad. I just think there's more upside to be had at number two. Maybe not in this draft, but maybe that's the case. Just maybe not a big fan of their first day. Bigger fan of their second day for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the prospect guru you are, but yeah, Shores in the second round seemed kind of like, I don't know, you get basketball teams that pick the guy who had a good March Madness and kind of ignore the rest of the body of work. That kind of stood out to me. And I wanted some bats, man, especially some college bats. And James Quinn's iron and Gavin Turley were both there when Nate Snead, another reliever, was taken with that fourth pick. That being said, they did take two college bats. Both were at a position of dire organizational need at third base. Any take on Jake Monroe or Slade Alford, who were both picked to nab the hot corner?
Yeah, I mean, I think in all reality, with the way that the pace of big league baseball is, if you're not playing shortstop at the amateur level, I don't think you're gonna be able to play the left side of the infield too much, unless there's a reason for it. So in all reality, I think Jake Monroe probably swings over to first base in the long run. Slade Alford, he can play third base fairly well. I've seen him recently with the Sixers. You're buying on the bats on both these guys. I think Jake Monroe is a little bit more interesting. Has shown the ability to hit for average, has shown the ability to hit for power, just hasn't been able to do it at the same time. So I think he's one that I think the Angels believe there's a lot more to tap into there. The scouting industry, some are bullish, some aren't. But it's at least a bad. I agree with you. This organization just doesn't have a whole lot of impactful position players on the way that you see as for sure everyday upside guys. And I don't mind the Nate Snead pick in the third round, late third round. I don't mind taking a reliever there, but second round money. I think Chase Shores is definitely an electric arm, no doubt about that. And Chase Shores is very electric, but at the same time, it's just I don't like taking but you have a top 50 pick. It's hard to sit there and take a reliever when you're doing it.
I watched quite a bit of SEC baseball this year, man, and there were, I don't know, you tell the difference between the real scouts and guys like me who just like baseball. I think every time I watched SEC baseball, there were like three or four guys that I'm like, oh, dude, we should draft that guy. We should draft that guy. But yeah, highly rated bats available in the second round. Kind of a somewhat natural segue to third base. Denzer Guzman playing third base a lot up at the AAA level. So you made some adjustments to his swing or what? Because the kid is just on fire the last couple of months.
He's a really rhythmic swinger. He always has these hitterish looks, and for him, the biggest thing has always been if he can hit a breaking ball from the same side arm. Can he hit a right-handed slider or a curveball? And he's starting to improve on some of the off speed. Obviously still fastball heavy when it comes to his hitting, but been able to make some adjustments on off speed pitches that have really helped him. Like you said, he's always been hitterish. The swing has always kind of been there. He's had that look. The power is the thing that I think is more surprising from the last 2 years, not just this year, but last 2 years. He turned into a defense power guy when he was really more of just a pure hit tool guy. And if he can blend a little bit of the hit tool, and I wouldn't say it's going to be anywhere near an average hit tool in the long run, but if he can be a little bit of a fringy hit tool with some average or better power and play shortstop, there's a chance at an everyday guy. And moving him to third base, they obviously Zach Neto is a big part of that, and never anything wrong with having a guy be more versatile. And I think Denzer has proven that he can play shortstop, but if he can prove that he can move over to third base with no issues and be there, I think it only increases his value a little bit as just a left side defender that the bat lets him play every day.
Lots of chatter on our boards, and I'm sure others you read about fans wanting Zach Neto to get extended now. Are you on that board? Because it's kind of hard to argue against it, in my opinion. Obviously, we don't know the numbers, but what do you think a Zach Neto extension might look like if the Angels were to do it now? And would that be a course of action that you would take yourself?
Probably similar to you. I haven't thought about the numbers per se, but yeah, definitely. I don't see why you wouldn't try to at least extend them. At least get him through a year or two past his arbitration, because at this point he would be. I mean, I have to pull up his age, but I'd imagine he'd be hitting free agency as a 27-year-old is my guess. I mean, he's 24 now with 3 years of arbitration on top of this, so he'd be a 27, 28-year-old free agent. It's going to cost some premium dollars when he hits free agency. So I would assume, get him through the arbitration figure years and everything like that, and assume that last year of arbitration is going to be somewhere around, I'm guessing it's 15 to 20 million on that last year, and then you're adding 20 million on top of that last season. So, if it's a 6 year extension at this point or 5 year extension, you're taking 2 years into free agency, I'd be looking at what's that, 40, 55? I'd be assuming a close to $100 million at that point.
Yeah, according to Baseball Reference, he'll be a free agent after the 2029 season. So six, seven, eight, nine. Yeah, the Angels have got 4 years left. Three of those will be expensive. Yeah, 15 to 20 million the last year. Call it 10 and call it eight. So you're at probably about 35, 40 million just for the arbitration year. So yeah, you give them a little money now, you throw on an extra couple, maybe 7 years, $120 million, give or take. That has him hitting free agency again at the age of 31, or not again, but for the first time at the age of 31. Here we go. Let's go. MLB Pipeline has updated the Angels top 30 prospects. Ryan Johnson slid all the way up to number three. The Angels started him off as a reliever right out of camp, converted him back to a starter down in the minor leagues. What's your faith level in Ryan Johnson, or at least intrigue level?
Well, I think are you using MLB pipeline rankings?
Yeah, because they just updated yesterday.
Gotcha.
I don't.
So, not to give away our recording time, but Baseball America updated theirs today, and as an employee of Baseball America, I'm going to utilize that. No
Please
offense at
do,
all to,
please do, please
yeah,
do.
no offense to Jim Callis or Jonathan Mayo. Love those guys. Very good friends, and I respect them. But come on, Jeff. I got kids to feed and stuff like that. No,
Okay. Plug
I
your work,
don't.
man. Your work is better,
No,
but my
no,
readers
no,
can
no.
actually read this link.
That's fine. You're asking about Ryan Johnson, is what it was
Yeah.
mostly. Yeah, I mean, it's a Ryan is. I don't know how much of a starter he's ever going to be. Obviously, in Tri City, he's performed remarkably well as a starter, and I think that's a big mark for him is to not only perform well but prove that he can go 100 pitches at a time and not wear down. And oddly enough, that's just not the case. He's dealing with arm fatigue right now. They're shutting him down as part of workload management. Um, so yeah, his last outing was 9 innings under 100 pitches, but he's getting tired. So I think he's a reliever. And for me, I know that he flirted. Talking about pipeline, I read what they put out, and I know that for a minute Ryan Johnson was a top 100 prospect for them. I wouldn't say a reliever is going to be a top 100 prospect under any circumstances. So if you believe he's a starter, absolutely. And he's got it's mostly that cutter slider fastball combination, but his changeup has progressed. His control is still there. It's how well he can command. There's a big difference between control and command. Is he throws a lot of strikes, which is a good thing. But is he throwing strikes that he wants to where he wants to put them? So I think to capitalize on Ryan Johnson's value, you can't do what you already did with him and throw him in the majors as a big league arm. I think you need to take time, develop, let him get the reps, let him get the innings. No matter if it's a necessity thing, then sure, because the big league team is going to be the most important thing. But I think for your future, I think Ryan Johnson needs to be starting long term to try and get him to be a starter. And also, what he's going to learn as a starter is going to help him as a reliever in the long run as well.
It's kind of like mentally, I've kind of linked him and Chris Cortez together. Obviously, both guys that went back and forth from starting to relieving in college, both guys coming from Texas. There's a lot of similarities there, but Cortez is kind of impressing me a lot with what I've seen. You see him a lot more. What's your general impression of Chris Cortez?
Outstanding stuff. He has no idea where it's going. I mean, he's improved, no doubt he's improved, but this is still a thrower over a pitcher. The stuff is off the charts. I mean, that sinker slider combination is very lethal, and if things click, I mean, this is an incredibly special arm. But his control and his command, they have improved, especially over the second half of the season. But I think this is a guy that's still destined for relief scenarios. He has to start throwing more. He throws a lot of non-competitive pitches to go with the guy that already has a little bit scattered control. So it's going to be a reliever in the long run for me. But at the same time, I think it's a special arm. It's fun to watch, especially with the stuff he has. So I think he's going to be maybe even a ninth inning guy in the long run, which there is value in that. If he can improve the strike throwing, I still think it's a ninth inning type guy at best.
Yeah, Perry just seems to draft a lot of reliever profiles. That's kind of like my one big beef with him. And I get it, it's more of a bullpen game now than it ever has been before. And a lot of bullpen guys are getting a lot of money. So maybe if you can develop your own eighth and ninth inning guys, you can save yourself 10 to $20 million in payroll to use somewhere else. But, $20 million is a back end starter nowadays. So, if you could develop your own 4 and 5 starters, you can save yourself $30 million to go get pieces other places. So, just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but hopefully some of these guys do shake out. Victor
I think you and I have
Maderos.
talked. I think you and I have talked about it before too. To develop a starting pitcher, like a legitimate starting pitcher that's going to end up costing 20 something $1 million on the open market, right?
Yeah.
It's very challenging. If you look across the board, Angels haven't done it in a long time, right? Caden Dan is on the works of this, but before Caden Dan, it had been a long time before they developed a true starting pitcher. I think Jose Soriano has progressively become that guy, but it's a tough thing to do. And if you look across Major League Baseball as a whole, organizations are struggling to do this. It's not like just the Angels. It's a lot of teams are struggling to do this, and some teams are doing it very well. Even talking about, I think I was mentioning this. Landon Knack and Bobby Miller, right? Big time Dodgers prospects. They're supposed to be starters. Still probably not starters, and everyone's going to use the Dodgers as the forte of development, the forte of prospect analysis, things like that. And even though Bobby Miller and Landon Knack are going to be good big league arms, still just not starters. So it's very challenging. Ben Kasparias is another name that they have over there that they're struggling to make him a long term starter. So it's just very hard to get starters. But I do agree with you. You should at least attempt to get a starter at the amateur front. The guy that's going to project as a starter, that you end up falling back as a relief arm.
Yeah, 'cause pretty much every reliever is a failed starter, right? The guy's got either a great fastball and no third pitch, or his command just isn't there, or the endurance just isn't there. So then you drop him back to being a reliever. And then if that still doesn't work, then he washes out of the organization. But when you start with the reliever profile, it's either you make it as a reliever or you wash out of the organization. There's no fallback option where you can still gain some type of value. And just, being a finance guy, I'd always like to have at least, some value possibility, beyond the ideal value. One guy that maybe they've developed a little bit as a starter, took the hill last night. Victor Medeiros, he changed his arm slot down in AAA. Wicked stuff. I still don't think he has any idea where it's going. At least, I don't know, maybe if the elevation changed last night, that fastball seemed to be tailing on him a lot more than he expected. But based on the last couple of months, and given the rest of the Angels pipeline, it looks like a guy who will at least get a shot in big league camp in Tempe next year, right?
Yeah, I'd assume so. I think it's still fringy control. As you mentioned, it's not big misses, but it's misses enough to where over 100 pitches you're going to notice it. So starter workload. I don't know if he has the control and the command to start long term, but yeah, he's made some serious improvements. He added a sweeper. He dropped his arm slot. Kind of mechanically became more deceptive over time. And I think that's going to benefit him as he needed to make serious changes. He was finding the zone well enough to just get punished heavily because they weren't good strikes, they weren't quality strikes, and he's throwing a little bit better strikes as of late, but not outstandingly. I think the added sweeper is going to help him. It gives him a different movement profile, different movement breaks. He can work north, south, east, west. I think that's going to help him a lot, getting him four different directional breaks. But like you said, it's all about the command, the control, and whether or not he can throw enough strikes to really profile well. But I think that he's a guy that you pencil in more as a potential multi-inning bullpen guy for 2026.
Yeah, see, I would love to build a pitching staff kind of based on chaos, where, my starting pitcher probably takes the first two laps through the lineup, and then I've got two or three guys in the bullpen that can take another, just work through the order one time. So, after 6 or 7 innings, I've probably gone through two guys, and then we know what's going on. Nobody at the MLB levels wanted to try this, so it might not be the best idea I've ever had, but it kind of makes sense if you could have, a Ryan Johnson and a Victor Medeiros that can each go 2 to 3 innings twice a week. That takes about a dozen innings a week out of the middle bullpen relief, so you can actually use your good guys. Other than that, man, I mean, who are you guys over at Baseball America? You have any kind of maybe off the radar type guys that you're keeping an eye on, or anybody like that maybe we should keep an eye out for that the national guys, some of the national guys aren't talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two big ones right now, the high, the up arrow is going to be with Trey Gregory Alford, Dylan Jordan, two prep arms that they took last year's draft. Um, Pretty exciting stuff. I saw Dylan Jordan on about a week ago at this point, and it's a special fastball. It's a sinker two seam type that really high end run, especially arm side. He can throw it and hold it in the mid 90s. I think he's a pretty special arm. And Trey Gregory Alford, he's missing the secondaries, and it's fringy control, but it's another special fastball and special body. This kid was he was Rocky top over top of me. I'm about 5'11", 6 foot, and this guy was monstrosity over top of me. He's incredible size, big league body right now. Really exciting to just see him in person on the mound. But yeah, up to 101, 102 at this point. Really a special fastball again. Other guys, Yover DePaula is one that I've kind of jumped on. He had an insane performance in the Dominican before he got hurt, injured his shoulder trying to make a diving stop at shortstop. Guy that should stick at shortstop plus runner. Guy that just has tools to be a bench player in the long run. I know that doesn't sound all that sexy right now, but he had an OPS over 1 over his first 10 games in the Dominican before the injury. I think it's an exciting young shortstop that's at the back end of 30. Also, you know, I think we were talking about Juan Flores this time last year. The hit tool just hasn't come around. He's basically put up the exact same metrics at Tri City as he did last year, except he has a lower BABIP, so his batting average and everything else dropped a tick. Um, but Juan Flores and Marlon Quintero. Marlon Quintero is another defense first catcher that very different offensive profile than Juan Flores, but also very minimal, minimal upside from the offensive perspective. So defense first catcher, but I like those guys. Back end, they're going to end up on the 40 man at some point, and that's more what I'm looking for when it comes to prospects is who are guys that are going to land on the 40 man as opposed to other items. So I'd say between the two rising arms that are near I won't give away too much and go subscribe to Baseball America because it means I get to buy food for my dog, that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
for sure.
Um,
Subscribe, subscribe.
yeah, but
Everyone's new.
same time, Dylan Jordan and Gregory Alford are both going to be in the early teens, and DePaula and Quintero are on the 30. I can give you that for sure.
Nice. Yeah,
And you
you
know what?
talked
I do have
about.
one more. I do have one more I do want to mention. Peyton Olenek is one that's really jumped on me. 6'10", six rounder from last year. Six rounder from last year, played at Miami, Ohio, really did well. I think at the MLB Draft League. 6'10", controls the limbs. First time through the order, I have to do the math again, but I think first time through the order, he's got like a 500 OPS against. It's really impressive how good he is the first time through the order. Second, third time, a little iffy, but guy that throws strikes, has great extension on the fastball, which you can imagine a guy at 6'10" is going to do that. He's holding 93, 94 most of the time. Can run up to about 96, 97. I think it's a reliever in the long run, but this is a guy that has not only a special frame and everything like that, but I think there's a lot to him. Guy I'm really diving in on at this point is Peyton Olenek.
Nice. Well, I mean, 6'10" with that extension, 93 gets there like 97.
It does.
I'm old enough to remember Randy Johnson's career. So, not going to hold you too much longer. I know you got other stuff to do. I know you got the Baseball America rankings dropping, but you on Twitter dropped a Nelson Rada Denard Span comp, and I just
Yeah,
absolutely can't get it out of my head. And it's looking like that's going to be more and more the case as he's doing very well for himself up at the AAA level, at least from a putting the ball in play perspective, and then the defense. I mean, I've seen the kid a couple of times at spring training. I mean, it's a very natural center fielder out there. So you still sticking with Bernard Spine for Nelson Rada?
absolutely. Just had this conversation the other day. People were asking. I was talking to scouts, and they said, who do you think this guy is? Like MLB comparison wise, who do you think? And I said, it's not Ben Revere, but it's Ben Revere. And they said, would Ben Revere be starting every day in today's game? I said, he got pushed out of today's game. But this is someone that walks a lot more than Ben Revere did. He might strike out a split hair more than what Ben Revere did. Oh, seeing if I lost power here. Hold on one second. Sorry.
Still on.
You still got me?
Yep.
Just making sure we got. There we go. We're all set. Uh, he walks more than Ben Revere does. He doesn't strike out as much, but Ben Revere never saw any pitches. So it's another item of that is where you know did Ben. So I think Denard Span is great, and Denard Span had a couple double digit home run seasons where he hit like 10, 11, something like that. That all happened when he was in his early 30s, and that's what something where physical maturation when it comes to Nelson Rada, yeah, he might sneak into double digit home run totals, 10, 12, but that's going to happen later in his career. It's not going to happen right now. You saw it in Salt Lake the other day. I think in his debut or second game, he hit one out. He just lined one straight over. It's going to take little farts like that to get him out of the ballpark, but you give him 150 games, he might sneak out two or three, right? He's going to sneak
Yeah.
out a few, but power is just not part of his game. So it's on base guy that can see the front of the lineup, maybe a two-hole hitter, maybe even a leadoff guy, steal some bases, play some great defense for you. He's a plus defender. He's a plus runner. Plus, I mean, his swing decisions are incredible. The lack of power is going to be what limits his upside. and it may even limit his upside to not being an everyday player. I don't think he's going to be a platoon guy because he can hit lefties. I think he's actually got reverse splits from what I remember. He can hit lefties really well. Um, but yeah, I think Denard Span is a perfect example of like Denard Span had 28 career WAR in his career. He had a 5-win season at a point. I mean, that's really remarkable value. Um, I think if that's what you end up getting, I think you'd be incredibly happy with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I know that WAR for pitchers, it's not my favorite metric, but when you've got a really stud defensive center fielder there, and the pitchers know, hey, if I get a pop fly here, this is going to be an out. I do think that there's a carryover effect from having really good defense sitting behind you. So I've seen Rada two of the last three spring trainings, and yeah, he's definitely getting better every time. But yeah, his routes out in center field just always seem very natural. He always seems to take the correct first step. He always seems to have his feet underneath him when he makes the catch. It's not the strongest arm, but he can generally catch it where he's coming forward. So, he's in a good position to use what arm he does have. He'll take a couple of balls out of the air that would fall for doubles with most guys and stuff like that. And yeah, over the course of 150 games, that's 10, 15 doubles it's taken away. Those are things that can really help a team. But yeah, man, I know you got other things to do. Baseball America, subscribe to it. I always link your Twitter to get you some more followers if I can. And you see, in my Friday column, I tend to link something that you post on Twitter, I think, pretty much every week. So
Well, thanks,
we
man.
definitely appreciate your content. We definitely appreciate your insight. I will link your book again as well. So if you guys haven't bought Taylor's book, go out and do it. I mean, I did an interview with you when the book dropped. I did read the book cover to cover. And I did really enjoy it as well. So yeah, let's have you on again, and I thank you for your time.
Absolutely. You know where to find me. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Taylor. Bye.